Everyone, my name's Nikki. I'm a course advisor at Icon Institute. Thank you for coming to our webinar tonight about arts therapy. We're just going to wait for a few moments for a few more people to join. Get started. So thank you again, everyone, for coming along. So we're going to talk about arts therapy tonight. So I'll first introduce my colleague Chris, who's a course advisor here. She'll be on the Q&A for all of your questions as well. So please feel free to pop them into there. And then we also have Svetlana, who is our academic program coordinator for our arts therapy courses. Svetlana, do you want to start off by just telling us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Nikita. Hello, everyone. My name is Svetlana, and I'm a creative arts therapist, but I'm also the program coordinator for art therapy at Icon. So I have done quite a few years of clinical work as an arts therapist, and as many of our lecturers are, still working in the field and bringing our experience into the learning space. So that's me.
That. All right, well, I think we can move on to the next topic. All right, so as I said before, Chris will be in the Q&A tonight. So please feel free to pop in any questions you have, whether it's across admission requirements, course structure questions, anything about our placement, practical experiences, accreditation, class sizes, or just in general, the delivery of the courses and what student life looks like. So just feel free to pop your questions in, and then Chris will answer those throughout the chat for you. Thanks. So, Svet, I'll hand it over to you, but if you could please tell us, for those who don't know, I know some of us are very curious about what exactly is arts therapy. We all have a lot of ideas about it, but love to hear more.
No, yeah, absolutely. So, art therapy in itself, it really is an evidence-based mental health profession. So it uses creative processes rather than just relying on talk therapy, traditional talk therapy. We actually use a lot of creative processes. So it is a mental health approach, and it uses a variety of modalities, things like visual arts, like drawing, painting, sculpture, but it also delves into the expressive arts, like integrating multiple art forms. So we might be moving from one modality of, say, painting or the visual arts into another modality like movement. So music is part of the arts therapy as well. We could be using songs or just rhythm to help our clients express themselves. We use drama therapy as well. And dance movement is also a part of arts therapy. So it's not just the visual arts. So moving on to the next topic with how it's different. So with arts therapy, it is process oriented, so it's not outcome oriented. I'm not interested in what the outcome of the art making is. It's all about the process and the meaning that our clients make out of it. So we're not there to interpret the artwork. We're there to help guide our clients in understanding and creating meaning for themselves. So it's not about, being a great artist. It's actually about how we can express ourselves authentically. So we can use that embodiment, the non-verbal expressions, and all these ways of working with the client to help them express their emotions, to help kind of relay what their inner world is like. Onto paper, onto clay, or into movement. So it's like taking the inner world outside where we can work safely with them. And it can often complement also talk therapy, of course. And I have to admit, I'll be really transparent, a lot of times our clients do still talk in our sessions. So the next topic of how it's different and some methods and approaches. So, how it's different to talk therapy. Again, we're using these creative modalities, embodiment, non-verbal expressions to help our clients navigate. We engage in these creative expressions with our clients. We guide them and we support them. And these kinds of, I guess, interactions with our clients can only be done with trained arts therapists. So it's not like an art class where we just kind of give all the materials over to the client, and it's not like that at all. It's actually really based in a lot of psychology, a lot of theory, and so our art therapists are trained in this, and they understand how to ask those kind of open-ended questions or be curious with our clients, and to get them to sort of unpack and become, learn to sort of understand and gain insight into their challenges. So art therapy is informed by counselling and psychotherapy theory. It is culturally responsive and trauma-informed practice as well. And so the settings and outcomes, then moving on. So we can see arts therapy, and it sort of really is starting to make a movement in the mental health field. More and more organisations are understanding the benefits of arts therapies. So they can be used in mental health in schools. Schools are a really big part of where a lot of art therapists find jobs and work with students. You can work in community centres, neighbourhood houses. Many of our graduates have gone into private practice. They work with NDIS clients. Sorry? Oh, did someone say something? Okay. Um, and it's all about supporting our clients' emotional regulation. It's about their well-being. We also help our clients develop some self-awareness and understanding of how certain things might activate them, and give them tools to sort of help them process, to help them regulate. It's suitable. It's not just for kids. Arts therapy is not just for kids and children. It's actually suitable across all ages. I know personally from my work, I've worked with toddlers right up to 90-year-olds. So depending on the client demographic and the client, what their needs are, we're going to work differently. We're going to use different modalities. We're going to be asking different kinds of curiosities around our clients' progress. Okay, and let's have a look at how the courses work. So we offer the Diploma of Arts Therapies at ICON, and this is a one-year course, which at the end of this year, of that year, you get the basic foundational understandings of arts therapy. So if you're already working in a field, you might be a counsellor already, or a psychologist, or you might be a social worker or a support worker. So doing a Diploma of Arts Therapy can certainly add another layer to your therapeutic skills and knowledge. Then moving on to the bachelor's, and this is where we get much more in depth in our theory and understanding of how art materials can really help clients unpack challenges. We get to do a lot of practical work, so there's a lot of pracs that occur during the bachelor's. where you'll be working on those skills. We also are very experiential at Icon with the arts therapy. So not only are you learning theory, but you actually get to sort of delve into art materials and sort of come to understand in an embodied way how clay actually makes you feel. How did clay make you see a different perspective? And then how did moving from clay to maybe sand play gives you another perspective? So you really get to have hands-on experience during your learning. Now, the way that the course works is that it's nested, and what that means is you might want to just try to see, okay, is arts therapy for me? So you might just sign up to do the diploma, but at the end of the diploma, you might sort of decide, look, I really want to go ahead and do the bachelor. Now, because it's nested, the diploma sort of then will act like the first year of the bachelor, and you'll be able to go into the second year. And it works the other way too. If you've signed up for the bachelor's, but by the end of that first year, as long as you've finished all those first year subjects and you decide, no, this isn't what I want to do, you can actually leave with a diploma. So yeah, when we go into our the next content of flexible delivery modes. So the way that the course is played out is you can on campus at Sydney and Melbourne locations. So that's where you come in person, come into the campuses, and you do your learning there. There's also remote, so there may be some students that it's not possible for them to come in, so that online delivery is much more accessible for them. So you do have to be aware, even though you might be working remotely, there are some subjects at the end of each year, so at the end of first year, second year, and third year, where you will have to come in to do 3 days of intensive workshops. So that's really important because you get that sort of online, but you get your sort of in-person learning, and that can be really important when it comes to potentially seeking those kinds of professional memberships where online or in-person learning is sort of a part of that. Also, there's blended, so some of the subjects you'll be doing a little bit of both. You'll be on campus and you'll be online as well. So there's that combination. So it's pretty flexible. We can work with most of our students this way. Okay, I think it's
Thanks for All right, so what makes Icon special? Well, firstly, our arts therapy course. Icon's been running this course for many, many years. We're actually one of the first educational providers to actually deliver this course as well. So it is really unique. It is one of our most popular courses, both the diploma and the degree. So our students really enjoy it. And I think another thing to point out is that from the people to the lecturers and are all practitioners with plenty of industry experience as well as many qualifications as well. And we do find that students who go through this course are always really happy that they've chosen the arts therapy pathway from the initial stages when they're sort of weighing up which path they'll go down. Once they get started and are into the course and have sort of come through it, they do find it to be a really valuable process, both personally and professionally as well. Um, so yeah, because of the amount of, face-to-face hours, intensives and placement requirements, our graduates are incredibly trusted in the sector as well, which is really important. And I think is why we are one of the leading institutions in arts therapy in Australia. All right, let's move on to the next topic. Okay, so initially from your first inquiry through to any advice or any questions that you have your dedicated course advisors that are here to help you. So we're here to ensure that firstly, the course is meeting your goals in terms of your career outcomes, personal development outcomes, and also that you can meet the study requirements as well. And that studying these courses are in fact manageable around your work, life, and family commitments as well. So we throughout our consultations with you guys and students, we really assist with that process from the onset through to your enrolment. So please, always feel free to reach out to us, whether it's phone, email, or through online inquiry through our website. Anything that you need to know or want to ask, please go ahead and do so. That's what we're here for. Once you are an enrolled student, you do have access to a very supportive and engaged student experience team. So they can basically essentially help you with nearly everything, whether it's, adjusting your study plan, timetabling adjustments, anything that you're looking to change to your course, special considerations, life changes, whatever it may be. The student experience team is here to support you and help you through your student learning journey. And then, of course, we've got our fantastic academic team. So they're here to support you through assessments, research skills, whether it's use of navigation of our online study resources, as well as on-campus class resources as well. You're definitely supported across both the online and on-campus delivery modes. And our academic team, as well as our student experience team, is very one-to-one, and does sort of give you that very extensive support as well where needed. And then, of course, in terms of our campus facilities, there's a lot of resources available to you, in particular around arts therapy. The classrooms and materials are all provided specifically for arts therapy students. So they are allocated just for these classes as well, as opposed to other courses. And yeah, the campus resources are just fantastic. You can always come in for a tour to have a look for yourself and have a visit while classes are running. You can book those through our website as well, or again, just an email or give us a call if you would like to come in and have a look at the facilities as well. Move on to the next topic now. Okay, so Isaiah is one of our arts therapy students who has provided her experience here via this video. So we'd love for you to watch her story. So yeah, we'll get started on that. Thanks.
My name is Ossia. I'm studying Diploma of Art Therapy and I'm studying online. I describe art therapy as another language to express feelings and needs and communicate. I aspire to be able to be in a position to offer art therapy to a wide variety of people. I feel like everyone needs to have access to art therapy, and that's my dream. So the reason I chose to study at Icon is when I was looking for a place who offers this course, I looked at different places, but Icon had clear communications with me and I could explain the pathway I need to take. If I finish diploma, what are my opportunities in the field? If I finish my degree, what are the opportunities? And they were very responsive. What I love most about studying at Icon is that I find online lessons are quite interactive. You make connections. I've already made friends with some of the fellow students, and the teachers so far that we've had are quite experienced and knowledgeable in the field. So I'm really enjoying it. I feel like already I've developed the skills of being a better listener and holding space for people to communicate, open up, or just be. It's like reading a novel. Every week, I can't wait for next week to see what teachers have got to offer and what we discuss and what we learn. It's been fascinating. I just love it.
Hey, all right, guys. So we'll go through the Q&A now. So again, please feel free if you haven't had a chance already to pop through any questions you have in the Q&A. Okay, so let's have a look. So, got one question here. What if you live interstate? Is this only available to those living in Sydney and Melbourne? So I'm happy to answer that. Definitely not. We do have domestic students that study all over Australia in regional areas in particular as well. Because a lot of these subjects within the course, both the diploma and the degree, can in fact be studied online. You don't need to live in Sydney and Melbourne. With that said, as Svet mentioned before, we do have intensives, one in the diploma at the end of the final unit, and then one in each year of the 3 years of the bachelor degree. So typically those intensives are delivered across either the Melbourne or Sydney campus. So on those specific occasions, you would just need to travel for 3 to 4 consecutive days to fulfill some face-to-face hours on campus, as part of the course requirements. So it's basically like a long weekend. You can make a little trip out of it. If you've got friends and family in Melbourne, Sydney, that helps. Um, but yeah, if as long as you can sort of make that, if that's manageable, then the rest can be studied via distance online so that you do have that flexibility if you aren't living in Melbourne or Sydney. Okay, we'll go to the next question. So Erin has asked, if studying online or blended, how often are the on-campus sessions? So again, if you elect to study completely online, for the subjects that are offered online, then the only requirements and times you would need to come on campus are for those intensive days, which are just once-offs.
Nikki, we also had somebody ask about the what type of assessments are part of the courses. Maybe that might be better for you to answer, Svetlana.
Yes, I'd be
Thank-
happy to jump in. Okay, so yes, and I think I did see that about the diploma and other essays. Yeah, well, yeah, there will be some essays, but the great thing at studying at Icon, we've sort of pivoted quite a bit with the assessments, and there are demonstrations so where you'd be potentially filming yourself or giving presentations. You might be teamed up with one or two other students and you give a presentation on a topic. We do podcasts as well on a topic. And yeah, but there are, you just can't get away from it, essays. But as I said, it is a mix of the types of assessments, and there's also the kind of live kind of observation as well, where we're kind of working with another student and doing the sort of the work with the other student, practicing those skills and filming it, and then that is what you sort of reflect on, and you look at where are your learning edges, where are your strengths, things like that. So there are, you know, different sort of types of assessments, not just all essays.
Thanks, Vet. Seeing if there is any other questions. Okay, so Leanne has asked, is online learning live Zoom classes? Um,
Yeah,
if
they
you,
are. They are. They are Zoom classes, and then often we do have breakout rooms that we set up where students will be primarily in the large group, but then there might be certain activities or pracs that we're doing, and you'll be stepping into sort of smaller groups with students to do some of that work as well, sort of breakout rooms. But yes, Zoom.
yeah, so typically, for each subject that you study within arts therapy, those classes are in 3-hour blocks. So that's usually during the week between Monday and Friday. We do offer flexible timetable options for those classes because they are in real time. Because of the nature of the course, it is a workshop style delivery. So classes can vary from a morning and afternoon to an evening option. So there really is some flexibility for everyone based on, depending on your personal circumstances as well. Yeah. So we've got another question. Is any of it portfolio based? I'll hand that over to you, Svet.
Yes, yes. Although we don't call it portfolio, but yes, there are things like reflective journals, where or responses, creative responses that students have to upload onto Canvas, and that's part of the assessment. And of course, in placement, there is a portfolio in placement, which is also involved with not just the log of hours and critical reflection, but there's a there is a journal part of it too, where they are critically reflecting, but they have to also submit their creative response to their placement experience.
Fantastic. I think I've seen a few questions in the chat about eligibility and admission requirements. So I might touch on that as well. So we'll start with the diploma. For the diploma in arts therapy, the minimum requirement we usually accept is at least certificate 3. But with that said, if you are, and that is applicable, if you are outside of being a school leaver age, if it's not within the last 2 years that you've completed year 12. But outside of that, we do have a work life experience pathway as well. So it's definitely worthwhile if you aren't sure whether you would meet the admission requirements, just to reach out to us directly through to a course advisor so that we can advise you on the best pathway to gain entry into the diploma or degree. With that said, the entry criteria for the bachelor's degrees, usually a diploma as a minimum level of study. Again, we do also have a complementary work-life pathway in addition to maybe other study that you've done to support your application for the degree, as well as or a year 12 completion certificate as well. Okay, let's see if there's any other questions. Okay, so we've got a question, which Cert 3 courses are eligible? So for arts therapy, the previous study doesn't actually need to be in a relevant or similar discipline. It can be any certificate 3 that you've done or diploma or previous study. That is completely fine. It's just more to sort of meet the academic requirements. Although, as I mentioned before, we do have work experience life pathway options as well, as we sort of look at students' backgrounds as a whole and look at how we can assist you in gaining entry into arts therapy where we can. So we've got a question from Robert Winter. Does Icon allow proper referenced AI tools for assessments? I've used, for example, Podcastle to create podcasts based on my scripts. This allows me to make a quality podcast solo without having presenters, etc. I might, if you can, Svet, might hand that one over to you.
Yes, I know currently Icon has, I guess, a tick of approval with Studiosity. I have not heard of Podcastle, so that's an interesting one, and I think it's just something that you'd have to be transparent with how you use it and let your lecturer know. But I know for Icon overall, Studiosity is the AI tool that we have kind of, I suppose, approved, and others, I think Grammarly just for grammar, but the unpaid version. But yeah, we just have to be mindful, and we have an actual sort of, I suppose, a code of conduct or around AI and how it's used, and to use it with, so as not to sort of change your own words, but to use it as a, yeah, just as a, yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Svet. And I think a lot of people are also curious about what actually are the career outcomes of arts therapy. What does it look like, and sort of future prospects. Would you be able to talk a bit more to that, Svet?
Yes, well,
Thank you.
I guess first of all, it's where is your bliss? Where's your passion? Where do you want to work? I mean, arts therapy can work across a wide demographic and in various places. I think we mentioned a little bit in the in our slideshow. Community centres, neighbourhood houses, schools, aged care, so many. So it just depends, I guess, where your interest lies as well. Or you might find you sort of find yourself maybe working for a not-for-profit, and you might be working across a few different demographics of clients. And if you're working as a private practitioner, you might have a focus. Maybe you work specifically with neurodivergence, or maybe you work specifically with NDIS. It just depends on really where you want to take it. I don't see, there's a lot of opportunities. I've had a lot of opportunities, so I've worked across a lot of demographics. So, yeah.
Amazing. Thank you. Awesome. I'll just see if we've got a few more questions.
Well, that assessment one I can answer. They're both. Some are individual and some are group projects, or
So
even,
we've got a blend of both.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So Beverly's also asked, to practice as an arts therapist, is a diploma level qualification sufficient, or do you need to complete a bachelor degree as a minimum requirement?
Minimum bachelor diploma just gives you the foundational understanding and tools. And as I said before, if you're working already as a counsellor or a social worker or a support worker, it certainly can help enhance your work that you're doing with your clients. But you can't walk away saying I'm an arts therapist. It's just really foundational. A minimum bachelor, but of course, ideally you go ahead and you get your masters as well. And most people
Fantastic.
cringe, but yeah.
This is actually a question I get a lot from students as well when I'm speaking to them. Do you have to be good at art to become an arts therapist?
Absolutely not. No, because that's the whole idea, that it's not outcome driven, it's process driven. So and you'll get pushback from clients many times. Most of the time they go, I'm not creative, I'm not an artist. It doesn't matter. And you might even have someone. I had someone who did just a dot on a paper and said that's all I can do, and we worked with that dot. I just be curious, what is that dot? And there are certain ways of that you will learn, or you'll be trained to ask those questions, to be curious, to get your client in a space of a little playfulness, and all of a sudden that dot becomes a whole world for the client. And it was wonderful, because it was actually someone on our board for this organisation that I was working with a few years ago, and he finally understood what art therapy really is, that it's not arts and crafts, and he really got an appreciation for it. So no creativity, you don't have to worry about being Picasso, or it's not about that. It's actually about your own authentic expression using creativity and being in a playful space.
Fantastic. Awesome. Thank you. Let's see if we have some more questions. Oh, yes. So we've had Bethany Collette asking, can I please have an example of what a day in the job could look like from one of your experiences, Svetlana?
What my day and my job looks like. Okay, well, let's look at schools, because schools, as I said, it's a real growing area, and they really do have a need for art therapists to go in and work with the students. So again, being an arts therapist, I know, being any kind of therapist, we have to be flexible, and we have to kind of be able to kind of pivot very quickly. So working with kids in a space at schools. I had a program all written out. It was a 3-day intensive program, because they were a remote school, so we couldn't travel to them every day. But we thought, if we did this really intensive 3-day workshop with them, we can, sort of get a good grounding, and then we'll come back and we'll do some things online, and we'll sort of support them in that way. So went into the school, landed. We had about 15 students. They were all very highly dysregulated. So, we had a plan. And halfway through the first day, I looked and I thought, they've got no boundaries. These children they're just in everyone's space, isn't it? So I thought, right, that's it. We threw out the program, and we wrote, or we put together another program all about boundaries. So we basically got them all a huge bit of paper, set it around the room, so all these big pieces of paper, and that was their space. And you couldn't come into another person's space, another student's space, without first asking permission if they could come into that space. So they had their safe little areas. And one of the things I noticed, one of the teachers was sitting on another student's paper, because she was like a support worker for that student, because he was highly dysregulated. But I looked at that and I thought, wow, where's his boundaries there? So I got another bit of paper and I gave it to the teacher. She goes, oh, no, no, no. And I go, no, this is your space and this is his space. And it's okay if he invites you into that space. Certainly you can step into it, but let's start you off in your space. And then she kind of clicked. And it was amazing to have that. And then they created all their artwork, so there was a lot more of a calmer group. They were really focused. They were sort of unpacking some things, and then we at the end of it, we kind of went around to each person's space with permission, asking permission. And one of the things that the students said, as far as their feedback goes, we asked what was the best thing about this, and yeah, they all loved the art making and things, but many of them said what they loved the most was that people were asking permission. So something changed, something was learned. It was amazing. But I think that's the thing as the arts therapist, and we have all these tools and creative ways of kind of creative offerings for our clients where, yeah, if we can pivot, we can always pivot. We don't have to just have that kind of real sort of blinkers on. I hope that kind of gave you a bit of a I get very excited when I talk about arts therapies. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you, Svet.
Well,
Awesome story. Just having a look if we've got any more questions in the Q&A. Okay, well, something else that I get asked a lot is around fees and things like that. So just so everyone's aware, both the diploma and the Bachelor of Arts Therapy courses are completely fee help eligible for Australian citizens. So that does allow you to study with no upfront out-of-pocket costs by utilising that government student loan. So if you do have more questions about how that works, please feel free to reach out to a course advisor directly and we can talk about your personal situation and circumstances there. In terms of payment and fees, okay, we've got a question from Erin Cassidy. Are there any additional professional associations or certifications you need to work clinically with if you complete the bachelor?
yes, you will need to sort of look for professional memberships, but generally speaking, graduates don't start at the professional membership sort of. You don't start there. You have to work towards building up that professional status. But certainly, when you become a member of these associations, you then can get your insurance, and that's what's really important, to get the insurance to practice. Currently, we are going through the process of assessment for PACFA accreditation at the moment. And that's progressing as we're doing this webinar. So, but yeah, but there are students graduated from ICON in the past who have gone and that they have their professional associations and they're working in the field. Yeah.
Awesome, thank you. Take a moment, see if there's any more questions come through. Okay, so we've got Kate O'Donnell asking, when will you know if you are successful with PACFA accreditation?
When we know, we'll be telling you. But yeah, we're well over halfway through the process, so yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, well, I might move on to the next topic, please. Okay, so next step. So to start off with, for those that aren't aware, the next teaching period starts in September. So that will be our trimester 3 intake, and the official start date is the 14th of September. Orientation will commence a week prior from the 7th of September. So if you are considering applying or already are in the application process or the research process, keep in mind that we are about 3 weeks out now, I believe. So it does come around quick. So I guess the benefits of applying sooner rather than later, the main one I think for me is that we do have limited class sizes with timetabling options. So it is a situation where it's first in. So it is a good idea to apply, secure your place so that you get your first preferences for your timetable options as well, as those will be going live for our enrolled students and new application and new students as well in the coming weeks. The other thing to note is for the first time ever, we actually have a 10% discount for both the Diploma in Arts Therapy and Bachelor, which is pretty exciting. And that will be applicable just for our September applicants and enrollments as well. So if that helps, make your decision easier, please, as I said before, just feel free to do an application online or reach out to a course advisor directly via phone, email, or through an online inquiry as well. I was going to say, so with the start date as well, we do have classes coming up and timetable options that will be available soon. So as you start to submit your applications and things like that, just keep in mind about what sort of study load you might find to be manageable for September. I think what a lot of people assume as well that studying might go into the Christmas period and the holidays and things like that. But the trimesters actually run for 10 to 12 weeks each. So you will still get your Christmas break and summer holiday after the teaching period is commenced for the September start date. And then you can come back next year fresh in February. So it is a good time to start studying. I think a lot of people want to start fresh next year. But we do find that by starting even just one or two subjects in September, it gives you a head start. It secures the 2026 fee pricing and, of course, the 10% scholarship discount that is available for September only. So, as I said, feel free to reach out to us directly if you have any questions at all. And if you're sitting on the fence about applying, now's the time. So please go ahead and do so. And of course, advisor will reach out to you directly to talk about the next steps, your study plan, and basically tailoring a study load that will suit you and your personal needs. Oh, we've got another question here. What time do the night Zoom classes start? So typically the evening classes are around 6 o'clock. So because they're in a 3-hour block, it would typically be 6 to 9 p.m. if you were going for an evening option for a class. Okay. Just wait a moment if anyone else wants to pop through any more questions. Okay, Katie Harris has asked, how long is personal study time per subject? So Katie, we do, as I mentioned before, you've got the 3-hour classes per week associated to each individual subject. Additional to that, we do recommend another 6 to 8 self-directed study hours as well. Would you agree with that, Svet? Is that sort of your...
Yes. There's, you get a good amount of reading for each subject, and you need to be able to dedicate that time to get that real robust, juicy, I love calling it juicy learning.
So we've got another question here. What days do the evening classes usually run? Oh, no, we've answered that one. 6 to 9.
Oh, yeah, but what days? It's generally Monday to Thursday evening. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. So we do offer a couple of options which vary subject to subject, where there might be one evening option or a couple. It will vary as you progress through the course from one subject to the next. But there's usually a bunch of viable options for our full-time worker students to make it viable to study as well for them too. How many 3-hour classes a week are there to complete? So for each subject you study, there's an associated weekly 3-hour study block class. So it really depends on you. So students can choose anywhere from 1 up to 3 subjects per trimester. So if you're studying 3 subjects, that's a full-time study load. So that would look like 9 hours of classes per week. And then, of course, the self-directed study hours in addition to that. So yeah, it's up to you whether you can choose a minimum of 1 up to 3 subjects. You can also say if you wanted to sort of ease into study and start with just 1 or 2 subjects, you can do that. In fact, we recommend that to sort of familiarize yourself, especially in your first teaching period, especially if you haven't studied in a while as well. It can really be helpful to not overwhelm yourself and go straight into 3 subjects in your first trimester. But with that said, you can always build up the study load in following teaching periods as well, where you might start with 1 and then do 2 to 3 in a following one if you'd like to. You have the flexibility to decide from one trimester to the next in terms of what your study load looks like or what's manageable for you. All right, we've got another question here. This might be a good one for you, Svet. How in depth is the science for the diploma?
Look, there is in throughout the 3 years there is some, we do touch on neuroscience and behind how the art materials do work with our nervous system. But in the diploma in the first years, it's pretty light on. But not, and in the second and third years, it's not necessarily all neuroscience, but there's definitely a bit more to it in the second and third year. It's sort of, yeah, you kind of keep building scaffolding, you build up the complexity of it. But yeah, a lot of it's also very much about the somatic embodied sort of responses as well. So we look at that, we look at clinical intuition. There's a whole lot of, yeah, so a bit of neuroscience that's behind it all, but it's not like a real sort of science subject. Yeah, if that makes sense.
Okay. See if there's any more questions want to come through. Let's wait a few more moments. Okay, we've got another question here. How about this time, the start time and end of morning and afternoon classes? I would like to know if I can go to work after 2 p.m. Thanks. Thanks, Sue, for your question. So typically how the timetable looks is the morning class will be at 9 a.m. So they're again in 3-hour blocks, so 9 to 12. And then you'd have an afternoon class, which might be 12 or 1, and then the evening that's 6 to 9. So I think for you, if you're working from 2 p.m. onwards, morning classes would probably work best for you. That 9 a.m. block probably sounds like it'd be a good fit. Well, if there are no more questions, we might wrap it up for the evening, let you all get back to what's left of your night. Thank you so much for everyone for coming along and taking time for the webinar. Thank you so much, Svet and Chris, for helping out as well. Thank you. All right. Have a lovely evening, everyone. Bye.